Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they had to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms. Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your hosts, Deborah Bailey and Kerry Heaps. And I'm so glad to have you here today. And if you listen to this show on Podomatic, then you can also go on iTunes and search for Women Entrepreneurs Radio. And you can subscribe to that. And I hope that you will also log in and share your review. That'd be wonderful. 5 stars would be great so that the show will be shared with more people, if we have more reviews, and particularly for us, 5-star reviews would be wonderful. So I hope you will do that as well. So also come to womenentrepreneurseekers.com and you can learn more about the show, and also you can see the show notes and different information and blog posts and whatnot. So I hope that you will do that and learn more about what's going on. If you're interested in being a guest in the show, that's also a place that you can send a query and we'll send information about how you can be on the show as well. So we're going to get started. Introduce my co-host, Kerry Heaps. I'm a veteran entrepreneur of 14 years. Kerry Heaps is a publisher of Pageant Platform magazine and the host of Pageant Platform Podcast. And she's a founder of Kerry's Studio, a full-service pageant training company that offers training to women ages 16 plus all over the world. Her passion is to help women succeed in pageantry, build a successful platform, and use it to build a successful career or business after exiting pageantry. She's a former owner of Strictly Marketing Magazine and host of Strictly Marketing Talk Radio. So welcome back to the show, Kerry.
Thank you, Deb. As always, it's fabulous to be here with you and with the audience, and just very excited for the topic that we're going to talk about today.
So this topic is change, which is a big topic, obviously. I think that it's a terrific one because it's always something people can think about, but maybe a lot of people try not to think about.
Oh, absolutely. This is a topic that if this was an actual radio station, people would be changing the channel.
That's true.
Too much pain involved.
That's really true. And, I want to ask you, why do you think change is a hot topic right now?
Ooh, well, I got to tell you, when I reached out to you and said, let's do a segment on this. I think it's a multitude of things. You look at the country, the world in general, there's a lot of changes going on. And some people are excited about the changes. Some of them are resisting them. And then you look at, what's going on in social media. There's a lot of changes going on. Some people are excited about them and other people are fighting them tooth and nail. So in business too, there's a lot of changes going on, and I think people have a tendency, and I just went through this just this past year, where you're making changes in your business. And it's uncomfortable. It's not always the best thing for you, and sometimes it is the best thing you could have ever done. It's an uncomfortable thing, but I really feel like because there is so much change going on and there's so much chaos created because some people are fighting it, some people are not. So it creates some interesting dynamics. So I really think that it's something, it's a hot topic, but it's a topic, it's so hot nobody wants to touch it.
That's so true. I think that people are so afraid of change because they think that they can, I don't know, they're afraid that something has to change.
Exactly.
They need to do something differently. And oh my goodness, so what are your thoughts? Why do you think people resist it so much?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I think the main factor that flows into it is fear. I think there's a fear of, if I implement this change, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't happen the way I think it will? What if I get a lot of people who tell me this is a bad idea? So fear is always going to be, I think, a number one factor in anything, but definitely with why we resist change, it's fear. And the other reason is I really feel that people they look at other people, for example, and maybe they see, gosh, I really would like to be more like Deb. She's more outgoing. She seems very happy, and they start, doing the comparison game. And they're like, I would like to be more like her. I'd like to have what she has, but they're not willing to do what you do. So they realize in order to do what you do, that's a change. That's a big change, and it's going to be a lot more work. And I think people back away from that. It's too far out of their comfort zone. So part of it's fear, and the other part of it is I think they're just going to naturally resist it because even though they might be in pain right now, they're comfortable with the pain.
Yes. I totally agree.
If you think back to any of the times you've had to, any time recently that you've had to make a major change in your business that, that you're like, I know I should do this, but it took a lot of work. I mean, do you have something similar? It's recent?
Oh, well, for sure. For sure. When I did the online course, which I did some podcasts about, I'm saying, okay, I just kind of did podcasts because it's based on the book, and I put that out there, and I'm saying, okay, what I really want to do with my coaching. And, people referred people to me who want to write a book and all that kind of thing. And I'm saying, well, should I go in that direction? Because if people refer people to you for that, then of course, like, okay, maybe that makes more sense than me trying to force something else to happen. But I could also say, as far as, I did decide I want to do writing and really build a writing career. And I've written some things, and I said, okay, if I do write a certain amount of words a day, I can get X amount of books out a certain time. And just the thing of saying, okay, I can do it like that, and it makes sense. But changing my routine, I found a lot of resistance within myself, and it made no sense because it seemed like, well, what's the problem? And I think that sometimes it's just the risk of doing something different and stepping out. Then you start to question yourself, and you say, well, should I do that, or does that make sense? And as you said, sometimes when things are uncomfortable, you are used to it being uncomfortable and thinking, oh, I can do this, and here's my plan. It's almost like it seems like it's too easy. Even if, I can't say that, it's hard to say this. It's like, it's going to take an effort to make the change. But when you map it out and you say, yes, I can do this, sometimes it's kind of scary. And maybe that's really what the problem is, Maybe it's because you can see a root to it, but maybe you've convinced yourself that you can't do it. And it shouldn't be easy, and it should be hard and awful. And I'm like, well, I can do this, this, and this, and I can get this done. And it's almost like I refuse to believe that.
Well, I will, and that's why I was asking about that, because I look at, you look at people, and it's true. If you will embrace change, if you will be open, staying open to, okay, I'm not really crazy about this, but I'm going to stay open to it. I'm going to be positive about it. Approach it in a positive way. It does make the transition easier. But I think a lot of people, again, because it's a resistance, because they think, well, and it could just be a change in the business, like you said. Some of us are moving to that platform where we want to teach online. We want to have online classes. And then what prevents a lot of us from getting started is like, oh, I'm going to have to create all the content. I'm going to have to upload it. Then I'm going to have to do all the marketing. And then what if this doesn't work? And so it's like, there's just so much work involved, and there's a process to it. And we're looking at, instead of just tackling it one step at a time, we look at it as the whole thing.
I think that's,
not everything has to be done at once. And it is, in essence, when it's the right change, I think, for us, it's something that is going to benefit us in the long run. When we stop resisting it, it does become easier.
That's true. And I think that's a lot of the thing as well, because when you are resisting, you're creating this other thing where, oh my God, there's all these reasons why I can't do this and I shouldn't do that, blah, 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 blah. But maybe this is really the thing you need to be doing. But you're resisting it because, like I said, for me, sometimes I don't want it to be easy because I convince myself it should be really, really hard. And you can really be comfortable in discomfort.
You can, and I think we have to learn, change is actually a really good thing. And I'll use my own business as an example, because again, I recently went through some major changes, but most people who know my story know, when I started my business, 14 years ago, I think, I actually started to be in the image industry, to go back into the modeling and acting industry, to teach classes, to teach it, do image consulting. And when I started my business, of course, it's never a straight line. We all know that. But when I started, because I was in a sales position and I had done so much networking, people were asking me to create, hey, I'm starting a new chapter of my networking organization. Will you help me? Because they knew I was a good connector. So it was something I had a natural ability for. So it kind of took over my business. Because I thought, well, I'm going to do this. I'll start my own networking organization, and I started doing some trade shows and some, networking groups that met once a week, and I did very well with that. And then it segued into people asking me, hey, will you help me with my marketing? Will you help me with this? And that segued into doing other things. And basically the thing that I really wanted to do, what I really had a passion for, sat on the back burner for 13 years. Okay. And even though I was still kind of in it, I did it part-time when I could, when I had time. The life-changing event that happened to me, that made me realize, hey, look, life is short. You really need to do what you love. And, which, you know this, and some people who are close to me know this, but, my mother had gotten sick in 2016 and had open heart surgery. We almost lost her. She almost died. She contracted a really bad infection called C. diff. And, I had come back from a business trip, and I had some issues with my tooth didn't feel right. So I went to the dentist, and he said, you need to have a root canal. Your tooth is infected. We're going to put you on antibiotics. So I was on antibiotics for a full week, going to and from the hospital to see my mother. Well, all those antibiotics killed my immune system. So when she had C. diff before they even figured out she had it, I was exposed to that. So I contracted it too. And I had it 3 different times. In 2016, I was in the hospital on 3 different occasions because of this, and it's a bad bacterial infection. And if you don't get rid of it, it's going to kill you. So, the first time the first and second time, I think I was just in the hospital for 2 or 3 days. And the last time that I had it, which was just after Thanksgiving, in 2016, and I remember laying in the hospital bed, and I remember thinking to myself, because at this point they told me I had to have a procedure done to get rid of the C. diff. And I was going to have to, once I was released from the hospital, I'd have to go through another, I had to do a FTP, and I had to go to a different part of the state to have it done. And I thought, why am I kind of had an epiphany. I had my as some people like to call it, the come to Jesus moment, where I was just laying there thinking, you know, here it is. I've been doing my marketing. I had a speaking engagement that was booked when I was in the hospital. Mm-hmm. I had to actually call them last minute and cancel. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, you know, what am I doing? Wow. And I thought, you know, I started my business to do, you know, what is it that I really want to do? And I'm like, that's what I started my business to do, is the image consulting, the pageant consulting, you know, teaching women self-esteem, you know, teaching them how to be comfortable with their outside. And, I was like, why am I not doing that? You know, if I don't get rid of this is going to kill me.
Right.
And I've spent all my time in marketing because I was making more money. And I'm like, this isn't going to work anymore.
Right.
And after I got out of the hospital, after the first of the year, I had a transplant done, and I was free of the bacterial infection. And, it was kind of a long road to hoe, you know, in certain aspects of my life. But at that point, I was like, you know, I'm not going to do the marketing anymore. I'm done. It's not really, I'm good at it, but I don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
And I started the Kerry studio. I brought that back to fruition, and my Omega image I had always had, and I just kind of redid the website for both of them and relaunched them. And I started the Pageant Platform magazine. I took all the experience I had with marketing and publishing and created a beautiful magazine for pageantry. And started a podcast to go along, you know, same thing that I did with the marketing. And I let everybody that was contributing, I let them know this is going to be the last issue as of right now. We're basically putting it on an indefinite hold. And that was that. And I have to tell you, when I made that shift, it was scary. But how I knew I was making the right decision is that I made the change. And as soon as I started making those changes, things were happening. I was getting clients, coaching clients. I was getting people who were interested in the magazine. I was getting people, you know, who were following, you know, new followers, new people who were engaging us, new people that wanted to buy the products that I had put out in regards to pageantry. So I knew it was flowing a lot easier. Whereas with the marketing, it would be a consistent, okay, I got to get up, I got to make 100 phone calls, I know I got to do this, I got to do that, I had to push.
That's a good point.
And when I made this change, I'm not doing the pushing, it's coming along with me. Everything's just sort of happening as we go. And it's been a smooth transition so far. But it's where I was supposed to be now. Kind of finish up my story.
Sure.
I was recently in Indianapolis. We talked about this. I was up there for a convention, speaking at a convention, and my topic, this is something I booked a year ago, but the topic that I spoke on was succeeding in a male-dominated industry. And when I was doing my speech, for some reason, and I don't know why, but it just clicked when I was standing there in front of everybody. But I started to talk about the marketing. I started to talk about the networking that I did and how changing, you know, making those changes in your business can be the best thing for you. And it was the same thing when I stopped doing my networking events. It wasn't working anymore. It was working against me, not for me. And it's because it wasn't where I was supposed to be. And it was the same thing, laying there in the hospital thinking, what am I doing? Why am I doing this marketing stuff? Why am I doing all this stuff for other people? I had created a very good job for myself, per se. So I was like, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Right.
I'm going to do what I really love doing. And when I made that change and I made that shift, it just, everything flowed and everything has continued to flow. You know, I basically made that change last year, you know, like I think around this time frame, about a year ago in March, and started, you know, doing all of this stuff and working on the pageantry things. And it just really, it has not been a fight to get things done. And it's because I'm where I'm supposed to be, and it's because I made a change that I knew it was scary to do, but I knew it was the right change to make. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. But I think that a lot of times we hold on to the past things because either we make an investment in doing something a certain way, and then we're like, well, you know, I put so much into it and I can't give that up now. You know, or, we are afraid to take that leap into this new thing or this different thing because, well, I don't know what's going to happen and we want to know what's going to happen before we do it. So I think a lot of times that also is a problem as well, for people. And we had talked about that in the previous show. And, I think when people hear this, the other show should be up when we're talking about social media changes. But I think a lot of the problem with that is a lot of my theory, based on probably my own experience, is a lot of people coming out of the corporate or they already have a job and they want to get free of it. And then someone says to them, do X, Y, and Z and follow this system and everything will be fine. Mm-hmm. And you will do, this will happen, that will happen, you'll make this much money, everything will be good, you'll be free, you'll be on the beach, you won't do anything more, I promise you that. And it's very easy to want to believe that because you want a sure thing. Because you want to think that everything will work out the way you think it will. Not because you're lazy, not because you want to put the effort in, but you're kind of afraid of risk. Mm-hmm. So that person promises you things will be perfect. If you do X, Y, and Z, it's wonderful. I want to believe that. But that's usually not how it works out. So I think that it can benefit us business-wise to make a change, especially if you see something happening and you're like, oh, I think I need to do something differently here. But I think we get stuck because we're so used to doing things in a certain way. Or we're following a system, and when we're like afraid, well, if I don't do it that way, something will happen, something bad will happen, or I'll lose everything. What do you think of that? I think we can end up being our own worst enemy a lot of times.
Well, I think, and you're right, there's a lot of people that exit the corporate world and they're thinking, oh, well, I've invested so much money in my business, or they still have that corporate mentality. And again, that's a change. You have to change from the corporate mentality to the entrepreneurship mentality. Yeah. And you have to change the way you look at money. You got to change the way you look at work. You got to change the way that you look at your schedule. And it's a challenge for people. You look at someone who's been in corporate that's worked 8 to 5, for the past 15 years, and now all of a sudden they're going to start their own business. Well, the 8 to 5 grind doesn't exist anymore.
Yes.
There might be times, it's just like even with the magazine, or doing editing or something, I might be up till 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and, finishing work, and then I'm done and I post everything and get it to where it needs to be on the site, and then I go to sleep and I might wake up at 11 o'clock. And then get back and not working on Saturdays is just not an option anymore. Depending upon what market you're marketing to, you might have to work on Saturdays. So that just the schedule alone, wrapping your head around that is a challenge, but it's a change. And I think once you start thinking about it that way, that'll be a big thing. But a lot of people do. They think that, oh, well, I won't have to work as much as I do. You're going to work twice as hard. The only difference is it's like Jim Palmer said to me one time, I interviewed him, and he said, one thing I love about being an entrepreneur is I get to pick which 80 hours a week I'm going to work. So it's not, it's not I think a lot of people think that it's an easy thing. It's a misconception, and that's lack of research. But, again, it's just, if you can embrace that change and let it, you're going to have to go through the facets of changing. You're going to be annoyed. You're going to be like, oh, I didn't think it was going to be like this. You still will have bad days. I mean, it's just a different type of bad day. So it's just, you just have to learn to embrace that change, but it has to be the right change. Like I said, and I think how is that once you take that leap, if everything flows a lot better. I have to say, since I've done this has probably been an easier year for me in all the years of entrepreneurship, because I'm where I'm supposed to be. Now, I'm not saying that the past 13 years have been a waste. They haven't. everything that I've learned and I've done in marketing is helping me do what I'm doing right now.
Right.
But it's a shift that needed to take place. Now, granted, there was a life-changing shift for me. Most people don't sit in the hospital and think, what am I doing? I could die. I have something that could kill me. What am I doing?
Right.
So you really have to, you have to kind of realize that there's, I think life and I think the universe, as corny as this sounds, will prompt you that, hey, you're not where you're supposed to be. And I think when we struggle, I think that's a sign. This will make people laugh, but, I was talking to a colleague, it was before my mother got sick, and I want to say it was going on 2 years now, 2.5 maybe. We had this conversation, and I said, I'm really thinking about relocating the business outside of Florida, and we had a long conversation. And I just said, I just don't feel like this is the place for me anymore, personally and professionally. And, they said, well, you have to watch your signs. You have to, clearly if things are not going well for you there and you're not happy, that's a sign. Mm-hmm. And literally the next day, I remember going out, we had a terrible rainstorm that night and it flooded a lake near our home. And I went at that point in time, I was walking around the lake every day, to get my exercise, and I put my earphones on and headphones on and just walk around the lake. Well, the lake had flooded so bad that it was up to the sidewalk.
Wow.
And, the bridge was semi-flooded. I mean, you could still walk across it, but it was very wet. And this is the day after, he's talking to me about signs. Well, walking around the lake, I always like to take pictures. We have snapping turtles in the lake. And there's a little alligator that lives there too. He doesn't bother anybody. But if I see him or the turtles, I will stop and take pictures. Mm-hmm. And the turtles, normally, if they see me stop, they jump in the water and they go underwater. Mm-hmm. So the lake is flooded, and like I said, it was coming up to the sidewalk, and I see what I thought was a turtle. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a turtle. So I pull out my phone to take a picture, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's swimming towards me. They never do that. Well, then it turns, and I realize it's a huge triangular head and a very short, fat body. It was a water moccasin.
Oh my God.
And before I could even get the thought processed in my brain, oh my gosh, that's a water moccasin, I was too close to his nest or his territory, so he felt threatened. They aggressively will come after you.
Oh my God.
So he just immediately starts coming at me. And at this point, he's swimming very quickly. I don't think I've ever ran so fast in my whole life.
What?
And while I'm running, I'm thinking, okay, here's another sign. I'm not supposed to be here. And by the time I stop to turn and look around, because they're quick snakes.
Oh my God.
And they're very aggressive. They will come after you if they feel threatened. And when I got home, I looked up on the internet. They're poisonous, but they are the most painful snake bite you can get because of the way that their teeth are curled. They're curled up more. They pull away more skin when they bite you.
Oh my God.
And I thought, okay, we were talking about signs. Here's another sign. And I never went back to that lake, clearly. But, there's just a lot of snakes in Florida. But, that is a good example of you have to pay attention to your signs. That it's time to make a change. Oh
my God, it's awesome.
So that was 2 changes for me. I never went back to that lake. I renewed my gym membership, and and I've been working on getting, relocating ever since. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's scary.
But yeah, it's after when I told that story, I was telling a friend of mine who lives out in California, and she said it was your camera. She said they're told when they go out, there's all the different parks, because they have apparently a bad rattlesnake problem. They said they tell you, do not pull your phone out, because the glare if they see it, they take it as a sign of aggression, and they will strike at you.
Really?
Yeah. So she said it's probably the water moccasin probably saw the glare, took it as a sign of aggression, and came after you.
Oh my God. That's
so
wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
Again, I think there are things that will happen to us that will force us into a change. And then there are things that will happen where we will see signs. The universe just gives us signs. And I've never really been a huge believer of that until what I've gone through in the past, 2 years, so to speak. So you have to, if there's a sign that's showing you, hey, you need to quit your job, or hey, you need to change the way you're doing business. It's you definitely need to stop and listen to that. Because I think that when we don't change, I think all it does is things get more difficult.
Well, that's true. That's very true. You really have to think about that, because there are, I believe or intuitively we have, good messages from within ourselves that lead us to where we need to be. But I think that a lot of the message that we get is everything should be difficult, or you shouldn't listen to yourself. You should listen to someone from the outside who tells you what you should do, and they're more trustworthy than your own self is. So I think we end up following other people who tell us with authority, do this, do this, do this. And then we end up going in circles chasing these people who tell us what we should do, showing us their, lifestyle. And I've mentioned this before, where I think people get led astray is so much of what goes on social media and people telling you, showing you, these pretty pictures of their life. And of course now you stop listening to yourself and what you want, because that looks good. And that'll solve my problems if I had all this money, solve my problems if I could live this way or be this way. And they must know, because they tell me they know, and I'll follow them. And then you put all this energy and effort and money into following them, and then a lot of times people are left with nothing because they're not following a direction they really should be going in. And I think from a business perspective, a lot of times you may know why you started, and you may know what problem you were solving, but then you get turned around, maybe, because people are telling you, no, you're not doing this right. Well, here's my solution, and here's my solution, here's my solution. And then you're not sure what really should you trust, because maybe you don't really feel confident enough in what you're doing or your decision, or maybe you haven't found the right mentor who's going to listen to you, guide you in the right way. And it's easy to get turned around. And also, I think something else, Kerry, is that we are kind of guided to not really risk anything, to play it safe and make sure that we don't lose anything. But I don't think you can be an entrepreneur and play it safe. What do you think?
You can't. It's just such an oxymoron. You can't. That's like saying, hey, I'm going to go skydiving, and somebody says, okay, well, be safe. Well, you're kind of getting out of that safe zone when you're going skydiving. You're doing something that potentially, if your parachute does not open, you're going to die. I mean, so and that's an extreme example, but, no, I mean, I think anything like that, if you look at anybody that does where the rewards are great, there's going to be a lot of sacrifice. There is not going to be any playing it safe. A lot of people think, well, I want a stable income while I'm doing, working my business. Well, then you need to work somewhere part-time if you need a stable income, or you need to work for 6 months, have 6 months worth of income saved up, so you have that cushion to make you feel safe. You're going to have to be your own protector, with, being an entrepreneur. You look at people who try to break into the entertainment industry. That's also a good example. I mean, you're taking a risk there too, because you might spend 5 or 6 years waiting tables all, in the evening and going on auditions during the day or being available to, be an extra. I mean, I don't know. There might be something that you're having to do every day that is not going to be the most desirable, but it's that you're taking that risk because there could be that one break that you get Jeremy Hassel's a great example of that. When I interviewed him for our magazine, for the marketing magazine, like he told me he waited tables at a specific restaurant. And the reason he did it is because all of the people from MTV, I think VH1 and a couple of other places, all the people he wanted to connect with, he knew they went there frequently for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
So he was seeing them every single day, and it paid off. After a year, one of them said, "Hey, we're looking for somebody that could possibly be a fill-in host. Can you come and we're doing auditions. We'd love to have you do a test read." And that's how he got his start.
Mm-hmm.
Most people would not do that, though.
Mm-hmm.
They just
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be willing to take chances. You're going to have to be willing to do things you wouldn't normally want to do. Like I said, especially with entrepreneurship, you have to be comfortable with selling. I've told people that so many times. They're like, well, I'm just an accountant, or I'm a financial planner. And it's like, well, you're still going to have to sell yourself. There's nobody doing it for you. You have to sell what you do. And either you can do it or you can't. So you're going to have to do things that you wouldn't normally want to do.
Right.
So you're going to have to be a risk taker. And I'm not saying it can't be done. It can. You're just going to have to find something that works good for you. But make no mistake about it. Like I said, in entrepreneurship, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's never a straight line. It's never how you think it's going to be. Ever.
Well, that's true. A lot of people think that because they don't know, especially if they come out of the corporate, they have no idea. Like, to speak for myself there, and a lot of people trying to tell you it's easy and it's not. So that also kind of leads you astray, and you end up really making changes or making decisions that are kind of negative. And also, I think coming out of corporate, I could just say also a lot of times when changes were made in corporate, they were very negative because they were changes handed down from on high, and usually they meant someone was going to lose their job, or your organization was going to be reorged out of existence, and some craziness is going to happen. So of course, change is tied to negative consequences. So you come out of that environment, and then you think, oh my God, I just had to pick the right thing and do the right thing, and everything will be fine. And I think a lot of people prey on that when they offer you certain solutions because they know you're concerned and they know you're not sure. And they prey on that and sell you solutions and systems and things that will work right away and you'll get everything you want. And so really being honest with you is a lot of it is trial and error. Even if you have an idea of what you want, you still have to, it's trial and error.
Absolutely. It is. And again, sometimes it's making, you might have a business plan. Like some people are like, that's the one thing that I hate about a lot of these entrepreneurial centers and these, places that are, the chamber will hook you up with somebody from SCORE and they're all adamant on you having a business plan. It's laughable. If you're going to do it in pencil because you're going to be making changes. There is no one business plan that, if you look at it 5 years from now, if I looked at the little plans that I've made going back, it's like, oh my gosh, this is laughable. Cause 90% of it never happened because I made changes. I had to, or I wanted to. So it's really changes. It's just, it's a part of life. We all get older. We change our minds about things, and it's the same thing in our business. Things are going to change, whether we want them to or not. You look at some of these people who go into industries that are consistently changing, like social media, where, pretty much every year you're going to have to be on the cutting edge of what's going on to, get and sustain your client base. So you're constantly making changes. Constantly. You look at a CPA. There's tax reform going on. There's every year there's new rules and regulations that you're going to have to know about for your clients. So if you're not comfortable with that, then you're going to have a problem.
We'll be right back after this short break.
Hi, this is Deborah. Not only am I host of Women Entrepreneurs Radio, but I'm also a writer and coach. I've learned that making professional changes calls for a change in mindset, and that's not always easy to do. In my book, Think Like an Entrepreneur, Transforming Your Career and Taking Charge of Your Life, you'll learn the 5 steps to thinking like an entrepreneur so that you can move from idea to action. You'll also get information on how to manage fear of failure and how to banish self-doubt. And you'll receive lots of motivation to pick you up and point you in the right direction when you're facing the emotional and mental challenges that come with making life changes. In fact, one reviewer said, the book gave me ideas to match with my own feelings. This book is clear, straightforward. All tips are really good and easy to apply. I couldn't agree more. So get your copy today of Think Like an Entrepreneur, Transforming Your Career and Taking Charge of Your Life. It's available in print, ebook, and audiobook on Amazon.com.
You know, I look back and I think, you know, there's so many people that it used to be a big deal. If you stayed at your job, if you were at the same job for more than 10 years or the same company and you were moving up in the company, and turnover is just, it's more common than, it just seems like most places now are just, they're revolving doors. Mm-hmm. And it's because of changes that are in, like you said, there are changes that are implemented that shouldn't be. But it's all in how you handle it.
And I think a lot of people aren't really sure how to do that because they're not really told how to handle change in a really positive way that, yeah, this is part of my growth and I'm learning from this. And yes, I may have to change what I'm doing in my business, because if this isn't working, if this doesn't feel right, or I'm not reaching the customers or clients, and maybe I'm finding another income stream that really does work, and maybe I need to look at that instead of trying to force the other thing to happen that isn't happening. Maybe I should be willing to make those changes, especially if you're a small business. Mm-hmm. You can move a lot quicker than a big, gigantic business can. So you have that advantage. Mm-hmm. You know, but I think a lot of times it's in our heads that we can, or we try to find that magic cure, that magic system. I keep going back to that, I know, but I just feel that for a lot of people who don't know any better, who don't feel confident in what they're doing, you know, the messages from a lot of people is that there's just that thing. If you can find it, everything will work perfectly. You'll mm-hmm. never have a defeat. You'll never take risks. You'll never have a failure. You're just trying to find that magic system that will tell you everything you need. And that's a lie. It's a total lie. Mm-hmm. It's change is part of life in general. So how could it not be part of your business?
Right.
Yeah.
And you're right. And I think just some general tips to just looking at change in a positive way, mm-hmm. Would be helpful to everybody. But, you know, a couple of things you have to look at, you know, when you look at change, don't think about, you know, oh my gosh, this is, you know, to look at it in a bad light. Try to think of all of okay, what are some of the benefits of making this change? Because, you know, you look at a business owner who thinks, okay, well, I'm going to have to start working, you know, we're going to have to be open later, and we're going to have to also be open on Saturdays. So maybe it's a change of hours. And they're thinking, I'm going to have to hire someone else. I can't be here that whole time. I hope they don't steal from me. I hope I don't have to install cameras. I hope I don't have, you know, and they just think about all the negative aspects. But if you look at the positive side and think, okay, well, I can hire, you know, one person part-time to do the evenings and weekends, and, you know, maybe somebody I could give my niece a job, or I could give my daughter a job, let her do it, make it a family business. This would be a good opportunity for her to grow and learn and, you know, maybe, you know, prosper with me. So looking at it from a positive way, that you're actually employing someone, that you're giving them an opportunity to make money and make ends meet, which is a huge deal. And then think about too, well, gosh, you know, I'll have more clients. We're going to have more people that will be able to come in and shop and especially Saturdays. That'll be a very busy day. So we'll make more money. And we can cover all of our additional expenses. And, you know, maybe we can start offering, like, what new products could we offer? Or could we do an event, you know, on Saturdays? Or what kind of sales should I try to do? You know, you have to start approaching it from oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen, to, oh my gosh, I don't know what this could bring. This could bring in, so much. This could bring in so many opportunities. You have to change your mindset of how you're thinking about it. It's just like with entrepreneurs. It used to be, I would say, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I would get so nervous about, money coming in. And I changed my mindset with it to go, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I could get a new client. Somebody could buy something on the website. And when you change that mindset, it helps you deal with that so much better, because you're dealing with it in a positive way, because you're looking at all of the positive things that could happen, not the negative.
Mm-hmm.
So changing your mindset is, I think, crucial on how to look at change positively. Mm-hmm. And then two, just always say to yourself, I don't know what new opportunities this will bring to me, because you don't. And like I said, it could be one of the absolute best things that you could have. And again, I go back to myself as an example with this. This year has been, it's like you've heard the expression, you can't push a rope. I haven't had to push a rope this year. Things have flowed so much better for me.
And that makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. It makes a huge difference. Absolutely difference.
But I guess a lot of that is being willing to take the risk and trust yourself.
Well, you have to look at it this way. There's logistically, if you stay in the corporate world, and you and I both know this, there is no guarantee. You could be at a job for 10 or 15 years and you miss more than, for some reason. Like, I look at what happened to me being ill. I was in the hospital on 3 different occasions. I was sick for going on 4 months, to where I was kind of in a quarantine state, couldn't really be around anybody. If I had had a corporate job, I would have been fired after the first month. They would have found somebody within 10 days to replace me. So there really is no job security. People think that they have that, and they don't.
You're right. They don't. Yeah.
You're taking risk whether you want to admit to it or not.
That's true, but I think a lot of
if people don't believe me,
if
people don't believe me, wait until one major life change happens to you.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are conditioned to think, well, this is the way I'm supposed to be, and I'm supposed to go in this way and get this job or get this education, and I'm going to have this, be set for life. And that's not true. It hasn't been true for a long time. That's a fact. And people need to wake up to that and understand that they have to make some changes in what they do. And I think that's the conditioning that we have. And I think there's a big part of it too. The fear of change is, just kind of ingrained in people because they're kind of conditioned to believe that it's a bad and horrible thing, as opposed to change as being a part of life, which it is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for example, what are some ways that how do you embrace change in your business? What do you do?
Well, I've kind of been forced to because to be honest, looking at how things have gone since I've been out here and how they've changed and economies changed and technology has been a big driver of change, and just trying to understand, okay, maybe my initial idea was fine in that moment, but that has not held up. When I came out of corporate, I wasn't really sure what to do, and I'm saying, well, I'll be a freelance writer. That's really nice. But now everybody is calling themselves a writer when a lot of times they're not. As let me just try to get clicks and likes. But if you care about what you do, you care about who you serve, you want to do as good a job as you can do, if you want to keep learning and growing and serving the people who you want to do a good job for, I can get with you. So you can keep listening. People have to change is hard as hell. Life changes have happened to me that have been horrible and tough for me to work through in order to keep it moving. But I have continued and keep working on that. But I'm saying that change is certainly a part of business. Please don't believe anyone who tells you it's not. Do not believe them because they're lying to you. Change is a part of business. People have to keep trying to adapt and grow and learn, or hire people who can help them to do things if they can't do it themselves. Bigger companies certainly, which don't move as quickly as a smaller company can or individual can. But understand that you're not doing it wrong if things don't always work out. It's okay. You're supposed to learn from that. As Kerry's saying, trust what's inside of you to understand what to do next, or learn, or get some kind of training, whatever you have to do to do that. But understand that you're not doing it wrong if things change and suddenly it's like, oh my goodness, where am I now? That's normal stuff. You just have to kind of keep your ears and eyes open. What's happening in my industry? What's happening around me? Oh, I may have to make some adjustments. I may have to do something differently than I did yesterday. And it may be really uncomfortable, but that's what we have to do if you want to keep going forward.
Well, and I think, again, part of the reason I wanted to do this particular topic is because it is such it's a hard topic for people to embrace.
Yes, it is. It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard. In your businesses, we talked about the social media changes. A whole lot of people's businesses may be at risk.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you hear this, maybe it's your business is at risk because of Facebook changes and social media changes. Quite possibly. So that's what you have to keep in mind, that maybe you have to change your entire model. Be willing to trust yourself and your instincts and be open to taking in new information. I guess that's the only thing I can say about embracing change. But Kerry, do you have any final thoughts?
Final thoughts would be a couple of things that come to mind is just to, look at change in a positive way. Look at what could happen. But look at it in a positive way. Don't let the negative thoughts creep in there. And I think logistically with change, it has to be, you're the one dealing with it. It's a personal thing, and even with your business, unless somebody is going to be involved in experiencing those changes with you, friends and family, in business, I always say that doesn't mix, because they're always going to be pointing out the negative. Well, you shouldn't do that because, and with change, you can't, that just can't factor into it. For me to make the change that I made after 13 years, because I always thought, well, I guess, this other stuff that I've always wanted to do is just going to stay on the back burner. And like I said, this has probably been one of the best years of my business so far, because I'm not having to push that rope. It's just trotting along with me. Everything's just falling into place, and that's what you want. But that happens when you start doing things that you're meant to be doing. But sometimes you got to make changes, and you have to do things that are uncomfortable, but only realize, hey, it might be that I have to, I don't know, maybe you have to do a few more sales, and you might have to call people that you feel like are going to get annoyed with you. Well, it's better to make those sales and let those people get annoyed, because look at what it's going to bring you. It brings you up to the next level of where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, change is something, it's going to happen anyway. I think the longer you resist it, the worse it will be. So keep that in mind, and just keep an open mind. Look at all the positive things. Like I tell everybody, being an entrepreneur, you go through that stage of, oh gosh, I should probably take this client, because even though I really don't want to, because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And you have to change that mindset to go, you know what, I'm going to pass on this client because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I could get somebody that's going to pay me twice as much and will be much easier to deal with. You have to change how you think about it.
That's very true. I totally agree. And, this is a topic we could talk about for a long time, because it's a constant thing that we all have to deal with in our lives, personally, professionally. And I think it's something that we need to face, that change is very tough.
Well, I have a really good analogy for everybody. Change, and I just came up with this. Change is like a dirty diaper. The longer you ignore it, the longer you don't deal with it, the worse it's going to smell, the worse the cleanup is going to be. So if you kind of just think of have that comparison in your head, because most people, I think, have changed diapers at some point, and the sooner you change it, the better. So just think of that, in your life.
30.
Well, it is. It's true. You got to change dirty diapers. Come on, Deb. I mean, I've never had children, but I have changed a few diapers, so
Well, I made sure that I didn't. I wasn't around during that point.
Yeah. But it's the same thing. I mean, you're holding the baby, it needs to be out here, a change of hands, you send it right back to mom. So, but the sooner you deal with it, the better.
Oh my God. Yes, that's a great one. That's a great analogy. I love it. And I think that's a great way to wrap up everything. This is perfect. It's perfect. I cannot ever improve on that thought. So perfect.
I just came up with that.
I love it. That's perfect. That's the best thing, I think, for you to leave folks with. For the best image for us to leave you guys with. So,
I don't think they're going to forget that.
I'm sure you learned a lot from our conversation about this. It's a topic that will go on and on, I'm sure. So it's just something to think about for when you're dealing with changing times in your business. Certainly, it's something we all have to be mindful of. So I hope that you will be as well. So thanks so much for joining us. And once again, it's been Deborah Bailey and Kerry Heaps on Women Entrepreneurs Radio. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Bye. Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs and on the website, WomenEntrepreneurSecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on dvcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.